Here we go. Hey there, I'm BrickinNick, and this is my build of the Apex Legends Lutix. Apex is a game I've been enjoying a lot lately, and so I wanted to build something from the game. And the Lutix is something that you can either find in the wild or something that you buy like loot out of in-game as well. It was a really, really fun, but definitely a challenging build to work on. Obviously very, very top-heavy, and the legs are really, really thin. So it was quite a challenge figuring out a way to get that all to work out together.
So when you started with the build, did you start with the top part and then go down to the legs, or how did that work?
I actually went bottom up. Okay. So I started on the legs. I wanted to get a nice design going with that. Then I did the core in the middle, and then I did the three faces all together. Mm-hmm.
And how did the three faces come together for you? Because it looks like you've got a lot of pieces in there and a lot of kind of sideways building.
There's a lot of stuff going on. I started building the inner triangle and then figuring out a way to frame that. So brackets ended up being huge in that I could kind of build over and cover the edges of all the slopes that are in there. And then I used some brackets with some the wedge or the plates that have the rotational. I don't even know what to call them, but they basically holds the entire frame to the interior parts. So because those rotate at any angle, you can kind of mount them on in some fun ways.
And I believe it actually spins around, right?
It does. It does indeed. Happy to show you that too. And each of the eyes is a different color because in game you can find either a gold droid, so yellow eyes. You can find a purple one, and then the ones that you buy kind of for loot separately, they're blue. So I wanted to cover all three of the rarities for this guy. Yeah.
Capture all of them. So I love the color combinations you did here as well with the blending of that.
Yeah, they chose the color scheme there, so I just worked with what they had, and I think it looks awesome. And it's just a really fun design. It's actually really cool. In game, it actually like folds out entirely. It would have been fun to try that, but I think I'm just happy that it stands on its own. I think that's cool enough for sure.
This is definitely good enough for now. So talk a little bit more about the legs. I know you mentioned obviously how thin they are and how much they have to hold up. So how that kind of, was there experimentation there in terms of making those structurally?
Yeah. So I think I've rebuilt them a total of 3 times now. First, I had really focused more on the aesthetics of them. And then when I finally got everything together, it became very apparent very quickly they were going to need to be a little bit stronger. So I bulked them up in a couple different ways, and they were holding decently. But it did end up actually happening that I set it up at a different show, and within 2 minutes of setting it up, it had actually just collapsed. So after that, I went a little bit further with some further reinforcing with all the Technic beams, making the legs a little bit thicker, but ultimately a bit stronger. And luckily, that's more than enough to hold it up now.
Yeah. And I know you do a lot of streaming on the BrickinNick Twitch channel. Was this one of the builds that you built live on there?
Absolutely. Absolutely it was. It was a really, really fun one getting to work on this live. And funnily enough, the third time that I broke it was actually intentionally. I'd done some charity streaming and we hit an amazing goal. So in-game, to open these up, you actually punch them. So I actually did that with the build. So
it's very on brand for the build.
Exactly. I had to do it for the sake of the build. So yeah.
That works well. So what's that process like then in terms of, building live like that, with an audience? I think most builders here aren't building in front of people. They're just kind of doing it at home. Yeah. So what's that kind of back and forth like as people are watching you build?
It's great to just be able to talk about stuff, maybe almost distract yourself a little bit from the tediousness sometimes of building. But it's also huge having other Lego builders hanging out with you and suggesting ideas. There are quite a few elements of this build that I might not have figured out on my own. Like the way that the feet are done here, they have rubber grips on them. So they're using that little Technic rubber piece. But I couldn't find a good way to mount them, and someone suggested using a click hinge piece and shoving them over that, and that actually worked out really, really well for the feet. I think some of the ideas with the brackets the brackets around the triangles were figured out with some friends as well. And then actually a really cool thing for the very, very top on the inside. I don't think you'll be able to see it, but someone suggested a way of mounting cheese slopes in 3, like in a triangular pattern that actually creates a very small gap, which I was able to just cover with a tile. So tons of great suggestions from some of my friends that watch the stream. And that's what's so cool about it, is being able to get live feedback on your build. It's really quite something very unique.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So if anyone wants to see more of Nick's builds or his streaming, we'll make sure to put a link in the description below to where you can check that out. Thank you so much for taking us through the build.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Here we go. Ah!